Hello, everyone, and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer this evening, Logan Landers. And joining me to talk about this NCAA Week 8 college game preview between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Tennessee Volunteers. As always, my guy, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, Mr. Logan Landers. It's a big football game in the state of Tennessee.
You are not kidding, sir. This is going to be a great matchup coming up this Saturday at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Battle of the SEC, two top 25 teams, and a lot riding on who's going to win this ball game. But before we get into a breakdown, talk about the key players and stats. If you enjoyed the episode here this evening, give us a like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe on our social media platforms on Facebook and on YouTube so you don't miss a single episode of our show. Also available on podcast streaming platforms as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as a variety of others. Thanks to our friends at the Believe Podcast Network for hooking us up over there. All right, Vincent, let's get into it. Let's talk with the Alabama Crimson Tide, the battle of Roll Tide and Rocky Top, a very tremendous story between both these teams. And there's a lot that's been going on this year, Vincent. There's a lot that's been going on with both these teams. Everyone's saying, oh, have they taken a step back? What's going on this year? Alabama ranked number 11. It's still weird for me personally seeing them with double digits in terms of their rankings, but that's where we are this season. Looking at Alabama, let's talk about who their key players are and what they're going to be rolling into this upcoming weekend. Of course, at quarterback, there's been a little bit of controversy there this season with Jalen Milroe, but he's had a good season nonetheless. 11 touchdowns for the young man, closing in on 1,400 yards, close to a 65% completion percentage, 4 interceptions. But Vincent, the one key stat here, he has been sacked a whopping 26 times. That doesn't sound like an Alabama offensive line that has been dominating for the past 10, 15 years that I'm accustomed to. So definitely something to watch out for in this game on Saturday is how many times will Jalen Milroe go down to a sack. Now, rest of your ball club, you've got Jace McClellan, who's had a really good year, over 450 yards rushing for the young man on 95 attempts. He's got 3 touchdowns. You got Roydale Williams, who's also done really well. And also, Jalen Milroe can get it done with his feet, need be. He can scramble a little bit. He's got 139 yards on the year for him. He also ran it in 5 times. That's leading the team in terms of rushing. Receiving core, of course, your main guy, you've got Jermaine Burton, who's done really well this year. He's got 4 touchdowns leading the team. Isaiah Bond behind him, Amari Niblack behind him, your tight end helping out as well. And Kobe Prentice, another wide receiver to watch out for this upcoming weekend, all doing some good work there for Bama. Now, when you look at the defense for Alabama this season, they've done pretty well. Like I said, all in all, they give around, about looking at their previous games, they've given up 21 to Arkansas, 20 to Texas A&M, and 17 to Mississippi State. Those are the last 3 ball games they've played, and 10 to Ole Miss, which was a good matchup there. They got to win that one 24-10. So the defense has been a stronger point for Alabama this season. Caleb Downs leading your squad in tackles with 54 on the year for him, with Tresman Marshall behind him with 40. When you look at sacks, Dallas Turner has done phenomenal work. 7 sacks for the young man. Behind him, also having a good season, is Chris Braswell. He's got 4.5. And Justin Ubogi, he's got 3. They've got 26 sacks as a team. That's a really good defensive line effort there. Good work from the linebackers as well. They are really helping out on defense this season. We look at your corners and your safeties, your secondary, who's putting in some good work there. You've got Terrion Arnold. He's got 6 passes defended, with Mr. Kool-Aid McKinstry behind him with 4. And then you've got Caleb Downs, who I mentioned earlier, leading your team in interceptions. He's got 2 in total. The Alabama Crimson Tide have 7 this 2023 season. So looking at Alabama, I think that they've, like I said, done pretty well this season, aside from the one blemish in week 2 against Texas. They've came back. They've played strong. They had a tough win against Arkansas last week, but hey, a win is a win in college football. You take them where you can get them, but this is going to be a tough matchup, Vincent. How do you think the Crimson Tide are going to fare this upcoming Saturday?
Well, I'm going to tell you, when you look at the University of Alabama, they've been real strong at the quarterback position. They've been very blessed over the last few years. Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Mr. Tua, last year, Bryce Young. You look at their season, and then you look at the Alabama fan base, and you look at Nick Saban. After the Texas loss, they had to put it on somebody. They lost their football game 34-24. Jalen Merrill played well at times in that game, but he made some mistakes. But he did make plays. So when I look at that football game, I was very shocked how the Alabama fan base reacted. Then head coach Nick Saban, you took the best player at the position, you bench him. But see, it's something that God does. God will show you. You came back the next week against South Florida and you realized that, hey, we got to roll with this young man at the quarterback position. He came back against Ole Miss, made some mistakes there, but they won the football game, correct?
Yes, they did.
Came back, made some mistakes against Arkansas, but they won the football game based on his athleticism. Came back, won the football game against Texas A&M because he's able to make plays from that position. I'm going to say this on Saturday. It's Caleb Williams lost last week against Notre Dame. The doors are open for a Heisman moment. And on top of that, Alabama still has an SEC defense, man.
Yeah.
Dallas Turner, you mentioned. Delonte Lawson, Malachi Moore, Chris Braswell. And to me, if he wasn't a freshman, I would consider him right now the best safety in the country. I call him Kenny Easley, too, that played for UCLA back in the 70s. Caleb Downs is an outstanding football player. Alabama's coming into this game. They still got explosiveness on both sides of the ball. They still got NFL players on both sides of the ball. Jermaine Burton, formerly of Georgia, is a very special player outside. Isaiah Booth, another special player on the outside. J.C. Latham is probably the best offensive tackle in the country. Alabama's going to be ready to play on Saturday. This is a huge football game, and they battle tested. Think about this. They played a Texas team that was really, really good. And look what Texas is at right now. Still ranked in the top 10. They played a real good Texas A&M team. They played a real good Arkansas team. Hey, man, they played some really good teams. Now it seems like Jalen Merrill is starting to progress game in and game out. This might be a Heisman moment for him. Alabama's going to be all right. Nick Saban, you just can't overthink yourself. You got the best man at the quarterback position.
Yes, sir. Well said. Let's flip the script, talk about the Tennessee Volunteers this season. Like I said, so far I've had a really good year, 5-1. Only loss of the year came to that kind of just a really rough game to watch against Florida back in September. But look at this team. Of course, Joe Milton III, he's your starting guy, your quarterback, the main man there. He's got over 1,200 yards on the year for him, 61.5% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and been sacked 8 times. Like I said, this isn't eye-popping numbers when you look at how Hendon Hooker played last year. But like you mentioned, Vincent, he's progressing. We see that week in and week out, and that's what you like out of a young quarterback. But we know the strong point for this Tennessee team isn't really the passing game, it's the running game. They're top 6 in the NCAA when it comes to rushing. They're doing great. They've got over 230 yards per game in the rushing attack, and that's thanks to a slew of really good running backs with Jalen Wright with 571, Jabari Small with 359, and Dylan Sampson, he's got 273. And think about Milton, he can also run as well, 173 yards on the season for him. They've got 13 touchdowns as a team due the Volunteers. So that's going to be a big matchup for me, is the Tennessee running attack versus the Alabama Crimson Tide, how they can stop the run. That's going to be a big factor who wins this ball game. Receiving core, you've got some great guys like Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, and Brew McCoy doing some work there on your edge, helping you out in the receiving game. And flipping over to the defense here, you got Aaron Beasley leading your team in tackles with 38. Elijah Herring behind him just a little bit with 34. In terms of sacks, James Pierce Jr., he's had a great season, 6 sacks for the young man. And Tyler Barron, he's got 5 on the year. They've got 24 sacks. They can also get to the QB, Vincent. They're not afraid to get some sacks, tackles for loss as well. We look at the backfield, pass defended Kamal Haddon. He's got 7 on the year for him. And he's also leading your team in interceptions with 3. So they're really doing some good work. They've got 6 interceptions. He's responsible for 3 of those and 21 passes defended. So that's the big key for me, Vincent. Can the Tennessee running attack be as strong as we've seen in weeks past against this tough Alabama defense? It remains to be seen. What's your keys to victory for Tennessee this weekend?
I'm going to say this, man. Me being a long, diehard Tennessee fan in my years here being on the planet Earth, I remember this game back in the 60s and the 70s, and this was the measuring stick for the University of Tennessee football program that always said the third Saturday in October. And you think about it, I used to, as a little boy, saw all them painful losses to the University of Alabama and Bear Bryant from the days of Johnny Musso, Jeff Rutledge, Kenneth Stabler Jr., E.J. Jr., Barry Krause. Alabama used to own Tennessee. And then, of course, a lot of guys that came out of my neighborhood that played football at the Tennessee program, Carlton Peoples, Mark Stutterway, Xavier Cook came right out of my neighborhood. You can understand what I'm saying is today. This is a national championship college football playoff elimination game.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever loses this game, bye-bye. The pressure is more on Josh Heupel, the head coach at Tennessee. Because last year you had the huge win over Alabama. You was undefeated. You came up to Athens, Georgia, and Kirby Smart and the Dogs dominated you. You were still in the running to get in the playoffs. But you go down to Columbia, South Carolina, and get your doors blown off. And you're an afterthought. Even though you had a very important win in the Orange Bowl with Clemson, that doesn't matter because all I know is this, Logan. Me being from the state of Tennessee and the success the Tennessee football program has had, it's either now or never. It's college football playoff time for the Orange. The bottom line on Saturday, big-time players playing big-time games, especially against Alabama. Hendon Hooker, Peyton Manning, T. Martin. What they have all in common, Mr. Landers?
I think they've had some really good seasons, Mr. Turner.
They've
done really well.
They all beat Alabama
Mm-hmm.
when they was there at the University of Tennessee. Joe Milton, everybody say he has the strongest arm in the country. I understand that. He can throw the ball, 90 to 100 yards from one end to the other. But I go back to the Florida game. It was a Heisman moment for him. He didn't play well, and Tennessee lost that football game. And you know what? They couldn't run the ball. That was a good point you brought up, Mr. Landers. The last 3 games, Tennessee has had over 800 yards rushing. Jabari Small and Jalen Wright are 2 of the best young running backs in the country. Tennessee has to run the ball on Saturday, and you mentioned the Alabama defensive front. For them to have success, Joe Milton has to make plays in the passing game. I don't know how he's going to do it because I haven't really been impressed with him. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the offense is kind of stagnant with him not being able to be very accurate with the football. Think about at this time last year why Tennessee was rolling. The young man out of Virginia, Hendon Hooker, who's now on the Detroit Lions roster, was able to throw that football. And the young man, Jalen Hyatt, just playing with the New York Giants, was running like a free bird in the secondary. So when I look at that, that's what Tennessee has got to do offensively. Defensively, it's very simple. I think Aaron Beasley is the best linebacker in the country. The gentleman has been off the charts. I think he even could go back to the days of Jackie Walker, Hacksaw Reynolds, Steve Conner. I think he's in that class when you're talking about great linebackers that played at Tennessee along with Al Wilson Jr. The young man, 38 tackles for the year, 8 tackles for loss of 2 sacks. I've been very proud of him. Very proud of the Tennessee defense, 52 tackles for loss. They have played up to par as being a team ranked in the top 10. Then another young man has been real well, James Pierce, a junior, the next Leonard Little. This year, this young man has been coming off the edge, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. So I'm very satisfied with the Tennessee defense. It's all going to be about big-time players play in big-time games. And when I look at it, I'm even going to go and say it right now here on One of the Yards Football. Who has the better game, Jalen Merrill or either Joe Milton? That team is going to win the football game on Saturday.
Yes, sir. Well said. This is a tough one. I mean, this is a really tough matchup, which is a treat for fans to watch. I think it's going to be a great matchup, like we've mentioned, Mr. Turner. This is an elimination game pretty much. If you lose this one, you can kiss the hopes of a potential SEC championship goodbye, as well as a college football championship goodbye for the 2023 season. So a lot is riding on this game here between these two powerhouse programs. It's time for our game predictions, though. And I have been racking my brain since we got the schedule for this week, thinking who's going to win this game. Vincent, I'm going to have to go out there. I might be a little bold with this one, but I'm going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers getting a close win in this one. Give me the Tennessee running attack. I think they're going to have a good game. And like we've mentioned earlier, the Heisman candidacy, it's wide open now. There is no clear-cut favorite. Who knows who's going to win this one? Make or break performance for both these quarterbacks. We'll see if Joe Milton can finally get some love, finally get things rolling in the biggest game of his life of this season. Get a revenge off of that, like you said, that just off game he had against Florida. So I'm going to go with Tennessee getting a win in this one, Vincent. Give me the Volunteers 28 and give me Alabama 21. 7-point ball game in this one. How do you see this one shaking out?
I'm going to say this. I'm a Tennessee guy from the west end of the state, Memphis, Tennessee. The college football landscape, as I said early on one of our other pregame previews that we had, Ohio State and Penn State, Colorado has been the darling as far as when you talk college football. They're 4-3 now. Mm-hmm. The steam is coming off them. Tennessee wins this football game. Everybody's going to start seeing the love and the power is coming back on the hill, as we say in Knoxville, Tennessee. The 100,000 Orange fans of the University of Tennessee are going to be at another level. Then everybody, like the Ascending in Boulder, when you see all those celebrities that's been coming to Boulder, then you're thinking if Tennessee is able to go in and beat Alabama, think about who can be at the game up there in Knoxville. Dolly Parton. Maybe the revivalence of David Crocker. Mr. David Porter out of Stack Records. Mr. Jeremiah Long, who's famous here with 100 yards of football, who loves the Big Orange. It's game time for Josh Heupel and the Big Orange. It's a bigger football game for Tennessee because at the start of the year, everybody was saying with Joe Milton, the University of Tennessee is national championship quality. I'm going with the Vols in a very close football game, 24-21. Go right. Orange. I've been loving them ever since I've been in this world. I'm 63 years old. I'm not going to get off the platform right now. Go Vols.
There we go. Well, hey, we want to hear your comments, though. Who do you think is going to win this game? It's going to be Roll Tide. It's going to be the Vols. It's going to be Rocky Top playing throughout the speakers at your home. We want to hear it. Who's winning this ball game, this SEC showdown between Tennessee and Alabama? Want to hear it in our comments on Facebook and YouTube. Also, check out our podcast available each and every single week as well. As always, Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, it's a pleasure talking sports with you, talking some college football. We'll talk to you guys again on another